Hello and welcome to Wagner's Tech Talk. Today we're going to take a look at the all-new Super Console X Cube. We'll unbox it, set it up, and of course play some games. Let's check it out right after this. Alright, let's see if we can get into the box. This unit was sent to me for purpose of review, and as with all my reviews, I'm going to be perfectly honest about how the device works and what I like and what I don't like. Now, this unit is supposedly plug and play, has 50 emulators, 50,000 games, and HDMI output, multiplayer support, and it supports PS1, Dreamcast, and a bunch of other emulators. As far as the specs, it's got the S905 chip. It has 1 GB of RAM, which is rather small, up to 5 players, 50 plus emulators, and 50,000 games. Alright, so let's go ahead and open the box and check out what's inside. It includes the same basic wireless controllers that's included in most of these Ken Hank Super Console X devices. And the receiver is inside the battery compartment, and it's not marked in any kind of way, so definitely keep up with those. The controllers feel decent. I mean, they're not going to win any awards or anything, but they're okay. Then we'll take a look at the manual here, and this is interesting. It says it's running version 4.2 of EmuElect, so we'll check that out. And here's just a quick glimpse of the manual. I'll flip it over on the other side so you can take a look at that as well. Feel free to pause if you want to see any of this. Alright. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at the Super Console X Cube. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but that is not a cube. It does include an HDMI cable. It's like a 6-foot cable. There's the power adapter. It's 12 volt, 1 amp. And it is using this barrel type connector for the power. Now we'll get it out of the package and take a closer look. And there's the Super Console X Cube. That's still not a cube. It has 4 integrated USB ports on the front, which is a nice touch. And LED indicators. And on the back, we have the AV output, the microSD card that contains your games, your HDMI out to your TV, and an Ethernet connection in case you want to hook up an Ethernet cable. It does have Wi-Fi built in, your power, and your power switch. The style of the case is certainly reminiscent of the NES. There's the bottom of the unit, and if we look over on the side, we'll see a sticker: do not unplug the USB controller while the power is on. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and remove the microSD card. This card is 256 gigabytes, and they're often very cheap, so I recommend making a backup. We'll go ahead and do that real quick. We'll launch Win32 Disk Imager, and make sure you select the right drive, and then click Open, and go ahead and give it a file name. I'm just going to call it Super Console X Cube. It's still not a cube. Backup.img. And then I'll go ahead and click the Open button here on the far right. And now we're going to read the contents of that microSD card and write it to that file that we just named up above. It'll take a little while, probably about 2 hours. Once done, click OK, and go ahead and exit out of Win32 Disk Imager. And now we have a backup image of this microSD card. I'll go ahead and pop it back into the unit, and we'll go ahead and install the batteries. You'll need 2 AAA batteries, which aren't included. We'll go ahead and turn it on. There's a switch here on the front to power it on. You have some LED indicators on the top. And we'll go ahead and plug the dongle in here. And of course, we're going by that sticker that says don't do it with power on, so nothing's hooked up. We'll plug in the... Oh, wait a second. That won't close. That's weird. I think they should have pushed that back a little bit so you could at least close it, but that's just my opinion. We'll plug in the power, the HDMI connector to our monitor, and we'll go ahead and turn the unit on. There's the power switch. There's the LED indicators. And when it first boots, we'll take a look here, and according to the manual, it was running 4.2 of emulate, but no, it's 3.9. I'll also show you how to get rid of this boot screen in just a moment. It's kind of annoying and long. Now that it's booted, I'll switch over to my video capture so we can take a closer look. Now that we have the Super Console X Cube, it's not a real cube, powered up, let's take a brief look at all the emulators here. Notice under All Games it shows 50,030 games. Towards the bottom of the screen you'll see the number of games per emulator or per system. So if you'd like to pause it and get a good glimpse of how many games are installed, feel free at this point. I just want to quickly go through them so you can see, if there's a lot of games for the systems that you're interested in. The types of games that I'm mostly interested in are the ones from the early to late 80s. Those are the ones I spent most of my time and quarters on, but your interests are of course going to be different. Let's go ahead and go into the settings here. I want to show you a few things. If you go into UI settings, theme set, you can change the theme that you see here. This is the Alec Full Solo Cobalto theme. I probably mispronounced that, but anyway, it's a nice looking theme. Alright, so now I'm going to switch back and we'll take a look at a different theme. And this one is Pixel. And Pixel is okay. I love the design, but it's missing some artwork, as you can see here. So I'm going to switch back to the ES theme Emulate Carbon theme, which is the default theme that is pre-installed when you first power on the machine. Now we're going to go into the network settings and we'll go ahead and connect it up to our Wi-Fi network. And yes, it does have Wi-Fi built in. So I'll select my SSID, which is Lucas24, enter my passphrase, and voila, we are connected. Now we'll switch over to the Emulate settings up at the top. And if you want to disable that long video that you see on boot up, just move on down to the setting here, always show boot video, and uncheck that. And now when you boot it up, you won't see that video. Another change you may or may not want to make is if you go in here, it has a tile view, which is nice. Some people like that. I prefer going to the game list view style and changing it to detailed. And it gives you a longer list. You can see more games in the list, and you still get the artwork on the right hand side. So that's an option for you as well. And again, it's all a matter of your personal preference, and you can customize it and make it your own. One thing that I had hoped had gotten fixed in this version of the Super Console X Cube was the inclusion of samples for the older arcade games. Right here you should be hearing Donkey Kong smashing down onto the girders, but you don't because the samples aren't there, and this is one of my complaints in the very first version of the Super Console X. You don't hear Mario jumping or running either. To exit a game, press select and start at the same time twice. Other games such as Frogger, they're going to play just fine because they don't require samples, so you're going to hear every sound just the way it was in the original. So yeah, some games are going to be just fine, others are going to have this issue, and it's just something I wanted to make sure that I let you know about, because I haven't seen this mentioned too many places. For instance, Galaga, another one of my favorites, I'm going to get killed. You should hear an explosion, but you don't. Some versions of the Super Console X include a usable version of Android. Unfortunately, this device does not. At this point, I'm booting without a microSD card in the slot, and there's nothing usable. Here you're seeing portions of a review I did a couple months ago on the Super Console X Stick, where you can play Netflix and load up a pinball game, and you can't do that with this device. Now we'll check out some gameplay, kicking it off with Atlantis on the Atari 2600. Keep in mind, most of the older games, pretty much all of the older 8 and 16-bit games are going to play just fine on the Super Console X Cube. However, it's always good to show some of these, as they may be games you grew up with and you'd like to play them again. So here we go. In the early 90s, I actually had a Virtual Boy and really enjoyed it. I think I still have it somewhere up in the attic. I should probably try and dig that out. And in case you weren't already aware, there will be an Intellivision Amico released later in 2021. Should be interesting. I do have a pre-order in, so we'll see what happens. If I get a hold of one this year, you'll be seeing it on this channel. And who can forget the timeless classic, Super Mario Brothers. Altered Beast is another fun game. I'd never actually played it on the Sega Genesis, but I did play it on the Amiga 1000, I believe it was. Power up. Now we're taking a look at Capcom vs. SNK Millennium Fight 2K on Sega Naomi. Now we'll take a look at Mario Kart 64 on the Nintendo 64. You will notice the frame rate in the upper right. Now we're taking a look at Super Mario 64, again on the Nintendo 64. Now we're going to move on over to the Dreamcast and take a look at Sonic Adventure 2. Again, frame rate in the upper right. And here you will notice a little slowdown playing Dead or Alive 2. Audio is slightly distorted. Now we'll move over to the PSP, play some Guilty Gear Judgment. Now we'll take a look at Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max on the PlayStation Portable, and obviously there are some visual artifacts as well to make note of. Well, we've reached the end of this video. I'd say if this is the first generation Super Console X device, I would say it's a good emulation device to connect up to your TV in the game room. However, it's not the first generation. It's closer to the fourth version of the Super Console X. And from that standpoint, it's a step back to the original. It only includes 1 GB of RAM versus 2 GB of RAM on the Super Console X stick. It's still running the same version of Emulate, version 3.9, and the case design is nice, though it wasn't well thought out in that the door won't close with the controller dongles installed in the USB ports. Booting into Android is pretty much useless, though decent on the Super Console X stick. This device is basically identical to the very first Super Console X with the exception of a redesigned case. It does have an Ethernet port, as did the original Super Console X, so some may appreciate that. This unit is priced substantially cheaper than the Super Console X stick, roughly about $40 cheaper. If it came down to picking either the Super Console X stick versus the Super Console X Cube that you see in this video, the stick, while a little more expensive, is a better option in my opinion. This just feels like they had extra inventory of the Super Console X and decided to give it some lipstick. I hope you enjoyed this review on the Super Console X Cube, even though it's not really a cube. Maybe I mentioned that once or twice. If you did, please click the like button. And if you want to see more from Wagner's Tech Talk, please click the subscribe. And with that, I look forward to talking with you again very soon.